All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I hope everyone enjoyed lunch. It was really, really good. I see faces. Yeah, I see. Yeah, I saw some people taking pictures of their food, posting on Instagram, and yeah. I'm sorry, everyone that's on virtually. We did have a really good meal, but we're glad we're back, and it was delicious. So I'd like to go ahead and introduce our next guest speaker, Vitale Buford. And so I'm going to read her bio real quick. So let me fold this over. So Vitale brings her perfectionism training and concepts to life in a fun and relatable way, empowering teams and companies to transform the way they work, produce, and relate. She is an IPEX certified executive coach, trainer, award-winning speaker, and author. Featured in the New York Times, she is the author of a book, Addicted to Perfect, detailing her struggle with perfection and how she overcame it. Vitale considers herself an architect of corporate culture, working with organizations and leaders to transform the cultures of perfectionism to cultures of excellence. She does this through workshops, intensive team trainings, strategic advisories, keynotes, culture change, and leadership coaching. Before starting her own business, Vitale spent 14 years working in marketing and business development for a variety of industries and professional service organizations. She now lives her life purpose, helping leaders and workplaces overcome perfectionism. Vitale loves traveling, Fleetwood Mac, morning walks, and lives in Kentucky with her husband, son, and dog. So welcome, Vitale. Thank you.
Can I use the handheld?
Not that one. That's the. Yeah.
Use this one?
Yeah, that's the one. Because we do have the camera here too.
Okay.
So wherever
Okay.
you go, we'll try to keep.
All right, cool. I see in you what I refuse to see in me. That one line changed my life forever. And the person who said that to me was an executive coach I'd hired to work with my employees. You see, at the time, I was defined by my work and I was defined by my job. I was never present and I was always moving from one thing to the next. This coach saw me interact with my employees and he pulled me aside and he said, "Vitale, are you critical of your employees?" To which I thought to myself, you don't know me. He could tell I was upset and he said, "No, I think you're critical of your employees because you're critical of yourself." And then he told me that life-changing phrase, "I see in you what I refuse to see in me." So I sat with this information. And it didn't hit me until 1 week later when my mom came to visit me. She was at my house and she had relapsed. She had been drinking. I got so upset with her, pointing the finger at her, "Why can't you just change?" And then I took a step back and I remembered that life-changing phrase, "I see in you what I refuse to see in me." And at that moment, I realized that I saw in my mom what I was refusing to see in myself. You see, I had been struggling with a 10-year addiction as well. My addiction was to Adderall. I was pointing the finger at my mom to change when I should have been pointing the finger at myself. I was scared, I was ashamed, but I knew I needed to change. So I drove myself to rehab, and that was 7.5 years ago. So right now, you all are probably like, that is some really personal information you shared with us, Vitale, and what does it have to do with perfectionism? My Adderall addiction, you all, was just a symptom of my perfectionism. A very extreme symptom of my perfectionism, but a symptom nonetheless. It allowed me to work 28-hour days, it allowed me to be thin, it allowed me to be all these things outside of myself that I thought I needed to be worthy. And so as I started doing the work on myself, I realized
no one is talking about the pervasiveness of perfectionism. No one is talking about how it impacts how we show up for ourselves, how we show up in our career, and how we show up in our lives. And so I've turned my pain into my purpose, and I'm committed to helping everyone who is a perfectionist, which is 97% of us, become recovering perfectionists. So really quickly, a little bit about me. I'm a leadership consultant, but I wrote my book in 2019, and it came out last year, and that's, again, when I realized no one's talking about perfectionism. And I used to lead the marketing and business development departments of very large law firms, which is a very highly perfectionistic environment, and I thrived because of my perfectionism. But then I started to do the work to help it heal in others. So today's presentation is going to be interactive. We're going to do some self-reflection exercises, and we're going to dig really deep to uncover your own perfectionism patterns. And then I'm going to give you all tangible tools, right? So I'm not going to leave you with this is how perfectionism is showing up in your life. I'm going to teach you the ways that you can overcome it yourself. Because here's the thing. We're going to focus on ourselves today. Because our ability to lead others is completely reflective of our ability to lead ourselves. And if we are not aware, if we do not know what is going on with us or what is holding us back, that is going to show up in how we lead our teams. Sort of like that example, right, where that coach was like, you're really critical of your team. Well, it's because I was critical of myself. I had these unrealistic perfectionist expectations of myself, and I projected that onto my team. I would be a completely different leader today. So let's get started. My favorite quote about perfectionism is by Brené Brown, and it's that perfection is a 20-ton shield that we think will protect us when it's actually the thing that's preventing us from taking flight, right? We've been sold this lie that perfectionism is the way to success, right? That it's the way to happiness and joy, but it's actually what is preventing us from success. So what is perfection? So a lot of people are like, oh, perfection is needing to have a perfectly organized desk or a perfectly clean house. And you all, I am not talking about that. I am talking about the deep roots of perfectionism, right? A lot of our perfectionism was born in our childhood or our young adulthood. Like I was referencing in my earlier story, I grew up with 2 workaholic parents and an alcoholic mother, and the only time I ever received love was when I achieved. So I quickly learned that I was worthy when I was achieving, which is all outside of myself, not for who I was as a person, but when I made straight A's, when I was involved in extracurriculars. And so that's how I learned to cope, and I carried that into adulthood. So these are all learned mechanisms that we can unlearn, which is really, really powerful. But perfectionism is this false persona. It's this thing that we think we need to be in order to be worthy, and it's actually when we are outsourcing our self-worth, our intuition, and our decision-making outside of ourselves, right? It's when I need someone else to approve of me for me to approve of me. It's when I allow other people to be the expert of me instead of me being the expert of me. And so the journey of healing your perfectionism is a journey of coming home back to yourself and trusting your decisions, being able to hear your intuition, and being worthy, building that internal self-confidence, which I would say is probably one of the most important things. If we trust ourselves, if we have our own internal confidence, we are unshakable. We are unshakable as individuals, we are unshakable as leaders, with our families, every aspect of our lives. So I'm really excited today. So I also want to talk about what are some symptoms of perfectionism. And I also want to say a disclaimer, if you all feel personally attacked by this slide, you are not alone. Every single symptom on this slide I have struggled with and overcome, or I am currently overcoming. Right? So you're not alone. I also want to say that for the next 90 minutes, I want to encourage you to set aside your shame and your judgment, because we cannot heal the parts of ourselves that we hate. And so if we look at this slide today and we say, wow, 10 of those things resonate with me, I'm a bad person, we're not going to move out of our perfectionism. So I encourage you all to be open-minded today, put aside the shame and the judgment, because the more you can identify with this stuff, because again, 97% of us, the more you can identify with this stuff, the more you're going to be able to lay it down. The more you're going to be able to let it go. So let's talk about some of these symptoms. So procrastination is a symptom, right? We think we need all the perfect information before we move forward with something, right? Before I make this decision, I've got to have all the perfect data, all the perfect answers. Or we put off a project because we're so afraid that when we start it, it's not going to be perfect. We've got to do that pitch, that proposal, that presentation, that PowerPoint. And so we're so afraid that when we start it, it's not going to be perfect. And so we give ourselves anxiety for weeks putting off a project. Also, high expectations, right? Again, me being critical of my team because I was critical of myself. These unrealistic expectations that we put on ourselves. We've also got avoiding conflict. So we'll avoid conflict with loved ones or with colleagues because we can't control other people. Or we're afraid that if we have that difficult conversation, we'll make someone upset. They won't like us, right? That people-pleasing that we need as a perfectionist. When really, you all, conflict is just an opportunity for connection. People-pleasing, approval-seeking, constantly needing everyone else's approval. I need you to approve of my decision. I need you to approve of what I'm doing for me to approve of what I'm doing. Control, this is one of the ones that I'm still currently working on. That need for control. We need to control how this outcome or this circumstance, because we want to control how we feel, right? We don't want to get out of our comfort zone. It's so much easier to be comfortable. Obsessive thinking, right? Perfectionism gets us out of our hearts and into our heads. We're constantly questioning ourselves. It's destructive self-criticism. Also comparison. Right, I should be further along. This person has this, I don't have that. Again, those unrealistic expectations. Indecision, struggling to make a decision. Or when we make a decision, we can beat ourselves up for it. Did I make the right one? Or what we perceive to have been the wrong decision, we'll go back and forth on. And then another one that's not on this slide is imposter syndrome. Right, we're in a meeting and we don't speak up. We actually withhold our really good ideas because we're so afraid that the person across from the table or across from Zoom isn't going to approve. And so we keep our creativity down, right? We hold ourselves back. We feel like frauds. So these are some of the main symptoms of perfectionism. Also, I am happy for this PowerPoint to be shared with you all, so you don't have to take perfect notes or take all the screenshots, so you all can have access to this PowerPoint. That is not an issue. So I also want to talk about how it shows up in our careers, some specific examples. Those are the symptoms, but what are some manifestations of it? So it's when we're constantly overcommitting, that chronic multitasking, the hurry syndrome, right? Always needing to be in a hurry. This also shows up in how we parent a lot in our personal lives, always needing to be in a hurry. I raise my hand because, again, I've struggled with that too. Constant need for control, imposter syndrome, the destructive self-criticism. So I want you to think about the last time you sent an email to the leadership team and there was a typo. You hit send, you read over the email, you catch a typo. And then you start beating yourself up. They're going to think I'm incompetent. They're not going to consider me for that promotion. What was I thinking? And we'll stay in our head for hours. If you're anything like me, possibly days, because again, I worked for lawyers. And just beating ourselves up. And that destructive self-criticism over a typo, we are humans, over a typo, takes hours and possibly days off of our lives. Literally, we are no longer present, we are no longer productive, we are no longer efficient because we are back in our heads. Again, workaholism, right? Your career being your identity. I talked about working those 28-hour days. Taking on too many projects, right? Everyone wants to go to the perfectionist because they get it all done. We never ask for help. We never admit that we need help or that we don't have it figured out. And so people are constantly coming to us and giving us projects. And we don't say no because what if we get passed up for the next project? Or what if I say no to this and then I become irrelevant? And so we just take it all on and our stress builds and it leads to burnout. So these are some of the ways that it shows up in the workplace. It also shows up in how we lead others. And I do much more extensive trainings with companies and how it shows up in how we lead others. But it's when, again, we're making assumptions. We avoid difficult conversations. We don't delegate, right? We don't delegate because no one can do it the way we do. Or we don't have time. But here's the thing, you all. When we don't delegate, we are denying ourselves of a growth opportunity. Not only are we denying the team member that we would delegate it to a growth opportunity, we are denying ourselves of a growth opportunity. Because think about it. If we continue to do the same thing over and over, there's no space for, as a leader, for us to learn something new. So that's just an example, right? It's when we micromanage. So these are some ways that it can show up in how we also lead others. And then finally, how does it show up in our personal life? Because it's not just impacting one area of our lives, it's impacting a lot of areas of our lives. It's again when you're the last person on your list of priorities, or maybe you're not even on your list of priorities. Right? It's when you're constantly seeking approval. In my 20s, I was always phoning 8 friends. What should I do about this? What should I do about this career decision? What should I do about this relationship? What should I eat for dinner? Constantly needing that approval and giving someone else decision-making approval for my life. Constantly comparing ourselves, especially in the day and age of social media. Setting goals and not taking action, right? We've been talking about going on that Disney vacation for 3 years. We have not started saving for it. We've been talking about renovating our kitchen for 3 years. We have not made any movement on it. Again, we put our own priorities and our own dreams and our own goals on the back burner. Lacking healthy boundaries in relationships, right? Enmeshment. This was me a lot with my mother, right? I need her to be happy for me to be happy. Codependency. And then also the word should. Always a sign that you are in perfectionism. Because should is just an unrealistic expectation. I was talking to someone earlier and they were like, I should be more organized. Says who? If your system is working for you, who says that you need to be more organized, if you're efficient, if you're productive? Again, it's those unrealistic expectations. And then also, we don't speak up for our needs in our relationships with our loved ones, right? We're so afraid that if I tell you how I really feel, you're going to reject me. And so we put our needs on the back burner. So that was a lot of heavy information. I want to get you all to smile, if I can get this to work. Hold on. This is just a graphic of the difference between perfection and excellence. Car on the left is really stressed out. This is the car of perfectionism. This is the car of excellence. I'm going to hit play again. You all, I lived my life in this car for more than 30 years. The opposite of perfection is excellence. We're either leading from perfectionism or we're leading with excellence. And I get so many people, they come to me and they're like, well, Vitale, I've achieved a substantial amount of success under the guise of perfectionism. Why would I want to do anything else? Here's the thing, perfectionism may have gotten you to this level of success, but you're capped. So you've got to overcome and be aware of those perfectionism patterns, because once you are, you take that limit off, and actually anything is available to you. You achieve all of those things that you've been achieving in the perfectionism car, but you do it without all the anxiety, the burnout, the stress, the obsessive thinking, the destructive self-talk, the procrastination. You can achieve all the things that you're achieving and more, but without all the anxiety. Also, something really important to note. The car that you're driving in is the car that your team members are experiencing. It's also the car that your family is experiencing. And so it's so important because the work that we do on ourselves indirectly impacts those around us. So it can be really, really profound work. All right. So now let's move forward and let's talk about the steps to overcoming perfectionism. Hold on 2 seconds, y'all. I think it's going to let me. There we go. So we're going to cover 3 steps today. We're going to get really aware of your own perfectionism patterns, but I'm not going to leave you in the hole. I'm going to give you actual tools today that you can use. You can use in this room today, you can use in this afternoon, you can use this week to overcome your perfectionism, right? I'm not going to just leave you hanging. Tools, and then that's the mindset shift, right? Because once we're aware of our perfectionism, awareness is nothing without action. Awareness is actually quite useless without action. And so I'm going to give you the tools to shift your mindset and then get into action. And we're going to have some table exercises and some personal reflection. So let's get started. Let's talk about awareness. We start with awareness because you can't change what you're not aware of. Some of you may have come into today's presentation thinking, I am not a perfectionist. And then you saw those symptoms on the slide and you were like, I've got like 10 of 12 of those. So clearly I'm a perfectionist. And so it's just that awareness. So there are 2 pieces of awareness and how you really increase that awareness of your perfectionism. The first way is curious observation, And then the second way is identifying those perfectionism patterns within yourself. Now, curious observation is so important because as perfectionists, we get out of our hearts and we stay stuck in our heads. And when we stay stuck in our heads, nothing good comes from that. And we're not taking action and we're stuck. And so curiosity, first and foremost, is a really important leadership skill. To lead with curiosity, to be a curious thinker. But curiosity gets us out of our heads. So instead of being the movie, we're watching the movie. And so curiosity is really, really important. There's also a worksheet in your folders for curious observation that you all can do after this. So I want to give you an example of what curiosity looks like in perfectionism. So let's say a friend calls you and they got this huge job promotion. They've been wanting this promotion for the past 6 months, and they finally got it, and they are so excited. As a perfectionist, you get this information from your friend, and you feel jealous. Then you think, I'm a bad person. Why can't I be happy for my friend? I'm always thinking about myself. I'm so selfish. Why can't I just celebrate them? Why am I not getting a promotion? It's probably because I'm just not showing up at work. I'm not working enough hours. I'm lazy. The perfectionist thought loop, you all, goes on and on and on. We're staying stuck in our heads. Let's apply curiosity to the same scenario. Your friend calls, they got this huge promotion. You feel jealous. But as a curious observer, you're like, jealousy is a human emotion. It's not good or bad. What is this jealousy really saying? Like, what's really going on with me right now? There's always a reason, and then there's the real reason. So what's really going on with me right now? You know, I think I'm jealous of my friend because I just haven't been feeling really successful in my career recently. You know, my career and achievement is really important to me, and I just haven't felt successful. And so my friend's success is really triggering my lack of feeling successful. Okay, I can do something about that. Notice the difference? There's a huge difference. Perfection, we stay stuck in our heads with that negative, destructive self-talk. With the curiosity, we can actually do something about it, right? Maybe there's a project you've been putting off, and just doing it would make you feel better at work. And so there's an action that you can take. So this curious observation. There is a worksheet in your folder. I invite you all to spend a week really just curiously observing your thoughts. This is a really great place to start. Where am I being really hard on myself? Where am I also maybe being hard on others? This is just going to guide you to how perfectionism is holding you back. The second piece of awareness is pattern identification. So what I've done for you all is I've created 2 types of perfectionism. There's slow perfectionism and there is fast perfectionism. Slow perfectionism, you all, is the kind of perfectionism that keeps you stuck. Right? This is when you're procrastinating, you're staying stuck in indecision, right? You're not speaking up in meetings, you're not delegating, you're staying stuck. You're not having those difficult conversations. Then on the other end of the spectrum is fast perfectionism. Right? Fast perfectionism is the workaholism, the chronic multitasking, the go, 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 the achieve more, being in all the committees, being in all the sports for your kids. You know, it's everything, which can lead to burnout. So it shows up in different ways. Some of you all may look at this slide and be like, oh, I'm definitely a fast perfectionist. Some of you all may say, you know, I identify more with slow. If you're anything like me, you identify with both. There are different areas of my life where I'm both slow and fast, and it shows up in different ways. One thing that's really interesting to note is we are typically slow perfectionists when it comes to our own goals. When it comes to other people's goals, we'll jump through hoops for them. So we'll be fast perfectionists for other people, but when it comes to our own goals and our own needs, those are on the back burner indefinitely. So just something to notice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some examples of how it shows up in your life, and then I want you to reflect on how it's showing up for you. And then I'll give you some time to discuss it at your table, and then we'll move in to shifting and how we get out of our perfectionism. So how does it show up? Here are some different areas of our lives. So let's talk about health. We are slow perfectionists in our health when we have so much body shame that we miss out on life, right? We're at the pool with our kids and we are not getting in our bathing suits. Or maybe we've gained some weight during the pandemic and some friends invited us out, but we're so afraid to go because what if they judge us? What if they judge me? So we miss out on life because of our health and our over-identification with our body. Fast perfectionism in our health is when we had a piece of cheesecake last night and now we need to do like a 90-minute HIIT workout to compensate for it. In fact, I'm going to punish myself and I'm going to work out 7 days a week. I'm telling you all this, all of the examples I'm giving you, I have personally experienced. So you are not alone. I am here right beside you. These are not theories. I've experienced them personally or my clients have. Finances. Slow perfectionism in our finances is when we look at our finances like this, right? We're not checking our bank account. We are not looking at the credit card bills. We are avoiding our money because it triggers too much shame. And so we avoid our money. Fast perfectionism with our money is when we're constantly spending, right? We need all those material things to feel worthy. So there's a lot going out versus coming in. Family and parenting. We're slow perfectionists, like when we've been talking about that Disney vacation, that family reunion. We've been talking about it for 5 years and no movement's been made. Fast perfectionism in our family and parenting is when our kids are in 6 different sports. We're chairs of all the PTA, the neighborhood association, the garden association, who knows, but like everything we are overcommitted to. And personal development. Slow perfectionism shows up when we've got that book on personal development and it's been collecting dust, it's been sitting on our nightstand for 8 months, we know we need to read it, but we're avoiding it. Fast perfectionism with personal development is when we have 5 therapists, we've got 2 online courses we're doing, and we are overcommitted to perfectionism. I talked a lot about earlier how you lead yourself and how you lead others. But slow perfectionism is when we're not delegating to others, when we're not speaking up for our needs or we're not sharing our ideas, that imposter syndrome, when we're procrastinating, right? And then fast perfectionism is the chronic multitasking, the unrealistic expectations of our team members, those sorts of things. And then finally, relationships. Slow perfectionism in our relationships is when we don't have those difficult conversations, right? We're so afraid of being rejected or abandoned that we just don't even speak up for what we really think. We're so afraid. And then fast perfectionism with our relationships is that people pleasing, right? You say jump, I say how high. I need you to approve of me for me to approve of me. So I want to give you all just a minute, and I want you to write down or just reflect, where are you slow and where are you fast? Are there certain areas, and there may be areas of your life where you are not either, and that's okay too. But just based on what we talked about, I want you to take a minute and just write down, are you slow, fast? Look at some of these areas. So I'm going to give you a minute, and then we'll have some discussion. And again, the more you can identify within yourself, the more you're going to be able to let it go. Because we cannot change what we are not aware of. So the more we can be open-minded without judgment of ourselves. Every single area, I have been slow and fast. So just by show of hands, before we do some table discussion, who identifies with slow? Who identifies with fast? Who identifies with both? Okay. So now I'm going to give you all about 4 minutes, and I just want you to have some group discussion, what showed up for you, and then we're going to move out of our perfectionism and heal it. So have some group discussion. What came up for you? Are you slow? Are you fast? Are you both? So go for it. Okay, so now let's talk about tools to get us out of perfectionism. But really quick, I would love to hear from a few tables, any aha moments or any realizations. I'd love to have like 3 shares before we move forward. So who wants to be our first imperfect sharer? And I'm okay with the pause. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm more towards the fast side. I think I hold a lot of really high expectations. I don't feel like I push necessarily with the team members,
Yeah,
but it makes you think.
yeah. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, and it shows up for each of us in different ways. It doesn't show up the same for all of us. So let's have 2 more people share.
Our table had a fear of failure, so we're not going to share.
I get it. Okay. understanding the dynamic. That was this table's conversation too. Let's have one more share.
I'm
Yeah.
everything on the fast side, I mean.
Yeah. So how do you think it's holding you back?
And I guess I really, because I wouldn't identify myself as a perfectionist until you really define it out. I mean, if I think about my work and my leadership style, I wouldn't look at that, but then I look at all the symptoms and reaches it out.
Yeah.
I mean,
But the cool thing too is that now you have a framework, you can do something about it. Right now that we have, okay, this is the umbrella of perfectionism and these are the things that fall under it. Okay, now I can do something about it. There's clarity.
even my coworker turned around and said, "Yep, you're all them."
And so, yeah, I mean, perfectionism, like we think we keep it hidden, but typically everyone else knows around us as well. All right, so let's talk about how we shift our mindset. And now that we know how our perfectionism is holding us back, what tools do we need to get out of it, right? How can we lay our perfectionism down? And it really starts with our mindset, because as leaders, we are leaders of how we perceive things. We control our thoughts. We control our perception of everything. And so that's another really cool thing about healing your perfectionism, you all. When we are perfectionists, when perfectionism is running our lives, we are not the leader of our lives. We're actually just in the passenger seat of our lives. Perfectionism is calling the shots. And so to let go of your perfectionism is to step back in the driver's seat of your life and become the CEO and leader of your life, instead of perfectionism being the CEO and leader of your life. So again, today's work is about coming back into yourself, but it's really about becoming the CEO and leader of your life. And I would assume that we all want to step more fully into that role. And mindset is where it starts, right? Because our thoughts create our reality, right? Our self-destructive thoughts and our perfectionist thoughts have been creating the perfectionist reality that we have been experiencing. And so we've got to shift our mindset. All right, now that we know better, we can do better. So I'm going to teach you all some tools today. There's a tangible tool called the 4 C's. Then I'm going to teach you some reframing tools, and I'm also going to share with you all some mantras that help you overcome your perfectionism. But really quickly, something important just to note. Perfectionism, you all, cannot coexist with love. It cannot coexist with kindness, and it cannot coexist with compassion. If you are anything like me, as a leader and achiever, when I hear the word compassion, it is like nails on a chalkboard. I'm like, great. How do I quantify compassion? How do I add that to a to-do list? I'm very much an achiever, productivity addict, and so compassion can kind of rub me the wrong way. But here's the thing, if we want to let go of our perfectionism, we have got to be kinder to ourselves. We have to be more thoughtful about our thoughts. We've got to be more intentional about how we're perceiving things and how we are thinking. And so the kinder we are to ourselves, the less oxygen perfectionism has. And so if we don't like compassion, we're just going to have to get over it. I did. And just start being kinder to ourselves. So let's also talk about a tool called the 4 C's. So I'm going to walk you through it, and then I'm going to give you some examples, and then I'm going to show you how to implement it. So the 4 C's are criticism, curiosity, compassion, and choice. This is actually what you take your perfectionist thoughts through. Because as perfectionists, it's a habit. Our perfectionism was a learned coping mechanism from our childhood, and now it's a deeply ingrained habit. And so it takes something radical to shift it. Right? We've got to radically disrupt our perfectionism pattern, and we've got to infuse a compassion habit. And so the 4 C's are that new habit. So what I mean by this is you take your thoughts through the 4 C's. So the first C, you've got this negative thought, right? You notice your criticism. So let's take that example from earlier where your friend got the promotion and you felt really jealous and you started being hard on yourself. Why can't I be happy for my friend? I'm such a bad person. I only think about myself. Notice the criticism. Then the second C is curiosity. I want you to get really curious about it. What's going on here? Why am I thinking this way? Why am I being so hard on myself? Show yourself compassion. Of course I'm being critical of myself. My career is a really important part of how I feel about myself. Success is really important to me. And again, my friend's success is triggering my lack of feeling successful right now. And then the 4th C is choice. Now we got to get into action, right? Because awareness without action is not helpful. So we need to take an action. Maybe there's a project that you've been putting off for 2 months. Let's go in the office or our living room and just get it done. You know, is it that we need to have that difficult conversation? There's some action that we can take to make us feel better. Because here's the thing, you all, action leads to confidence, which leads to action. So when we get out of our heads and take action, we build our internal confidence. One thing to note here, when we stay stuck in perfectionism, we stay stuck in the first C. We do not move down the 4 C's. So it is critical to take your thoughts through the 4 C's. How my clients implement this, how I implement this, and what I'm going to suggest is that for 2 weeks consecutively, days of the week, I want you all to take a 10-minute break in the middle of your day. 10 minutes, I know we are all busy, but we grow where we give our attention and energy to. So 10 minutes of your 24-hour day, I want you to sit down at 12 or 1 or 2 p.m., and I want you to think of 2 or 3 negative thoughts that you had that first part of the day about yourself. Maybe it was that you were really short with your child and you've been beating yourself up for how you parented. Maybe you had that typo in an email and you're being really hard on yourself. Maybe you've been getting a lot of takeout and you're beating yourself up for not cooking meals. I've surrendered to that. I don't cook ever anymore. But where were you hard on yourself? Did you speak up in a meeting and you really didn't like how people responded, and so you're being really hard on yourself? And I want you to take those 2 or 3 thoughts through the 4 C's. What it allows you to do is course correct the second half of your day. Right? Because if we are not thinking of those thoughts, if we're not actually taking a radical action to disrupt our perfectionist thoughts, nothing is going to change. And so we actually need to write it out, because when we write things out, it's been scientifically proven to rewire our brains. And so we're going to start automatically. After those 2 weeks, you'll start changing your thoughts through the 4 C's. You'll have a thought, you'll notice it, and then you're going to start taking it through the 4 C's. So I invite you all to do that for 2 weeks. This is one tangible tool that you can do. The second set of tangible tools are called reframing tools. One of my favorite quotes is by Wayne Dyer, and it's, "If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change." If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. If we are going to step into that CEO and leader role of our lives, that means we need to be the CEO and the leader of our thoughts and how we're perceiving things. Are we going to let these negative thoughts continue to run our lives? Or are we going to say, I'm going to do something different, right? Because if you want a different life, you've got to do something different. And so these are some tools that you can use in the moment to help shift out of perfectionist thinking. So the first tool is going from what if to even if. So what if is a very fear-based way of thinking. It's a very perfectionist way of thinking, right? So what if that team member quits? And what if we don't make that deadline? And what if my child doesn't make the soccer team? What if, right? It's very anxiety-ridden. As humans, we have a natural desire to control things. And so we think that we can what if ourselves into an answer, right? Because what if keeps us stuck in our heads. We've got to switch our what if thinking to even if thinking, right? Even if thinking gets us out of our heads. You know what? Even if that team member quits, it's going to create space for a more aligned team member. Even if we don't meet that deadline, it's going to give us an opportunity to come together as a team and kind of reevaluate how we approach this project and maybe come up with some new creative solutions. Even if my child doesn't make the soccer team, there are going to be other opportunities. Even if it is all going to be okay. It is up to us. We can stay stuck in our what if thoughts, or we can choose a different way of thinking. Even if, and I'm someone who manages my anxiety on a daily basis, even if really releases my anxiety in my chest when I switch from what if to even if thinking. The second switch is going from life is happening to you to life is happening for you. When there are obstacles that come our way at work, it's happening for you. It's preparing you for that next role. It's preparing you for that next responsibility. And so if we can look at it instead of this always happens to me and like we're the victim of our lives, if we're the leader and the CEO of our lives, it's like, okay, what can I learn from this? What is this preparing me for? Right? A small example is we get a flat tire. Right? This happened to me a few weeks ago. I got a flat tire, and my son was in the car with me, and old me would have been like, this is happening to me. I do not have time for this. This is really frustrating. And again, I'm human, so I did have some of those thoughts. I was like, this is super inconvenient. But I only stayed there for a few minutes. And while we were waiting for AAA, I was able to sit in the back seat with my son and connect with him. That happened for me. It did not happen to me, it happened for me. I got 45 minutes of one-on-one time with my son that I would have never gotten otherwise, especially as someone who really is inclined with productivity and busyness. And so again, it is a matter of our perception. Third reframing tool, going from balance to priorities. You all can throw the word balance out the window. I'm going to give you permission. Every time I hear the word balance, work-life balance, it is definitely nails on a chalkboard for me because you all, balance is a setup for failure. Balance implies that every area of our lives gets equal attention 24/7, 365. Balance implies that our health, our profession, our relationships, our parenting, the time we take for ourselves or don't take for ourselves, that everything gets equal attention all the time. So we are set up for failure from the onset. So no wonder we're constantly stressed. Balance is an unrealistic expectation. So instead, what happens is, when we are in balance mode, aka perfection mode, we are never where our feet are. We're with our families and we're thinking about work. We're at work and we're thinking about how we're not with our families. We are never present and we are never where our feet are. Instead of balance, I want you to look at your life in terms of priorities, because priorities shift. We are humans. We change our mind. Our lives change, and we need a system that allows for that flexibility. Right? Balance doesn't set us up for success, but priorities do. Right? Because we can be where our feet are. The one caveat with priorities is it takes a little advanced planning. So what I do is every Sunday I take 30 minutes and I look at my week ahead. And I prioritize. And I'm like, okay, Wednesday I've got 2 proposals due, so I'm probably going to work until 8 or 9 p.m. I'm going to let my family know, and I'm going to do that on Tuesday night. But this weekend, I got a soccer tournament and date night. And so it is going to be family time, and I'm not going to be hard on myself for not working. Now, I'm human, so it takes some getting used to, but priorities allow you to be where your feet are. When I'm pulling that 9 p.m. work shift, doing those proposals or whatever else, I am present and I'm getting it done. I'm not distracted by guilt. And when I am at the soccer tournament or I'm on date night, I am present. I'm not guilty that I'm not working or doing something extra or answering emails. So priorities. And then the final reframing tool is gratitude. We hear a lot about gratitude. There are a lot of memes on social media. Gratitude is like the most important tool for me. I practice it every single morning, and I've been doing it for the past 4 or 5 years, and it is probably the one thing that has most radically shifted my thinking. Because what you appreciate in life appreciates. How can we invite more good in our lives if we're not grateful for the good that we currently have? And when you're practicing gratitude, I'm going to invite you to write it down. My clients, when I'm working with them, they're like, oh, I laid in bed last night and I thought about my gratitude. And I'm like, that's great. But if you want to get the full benefit from gratitude, you've got to write it down. Because again, it rewires your brain. However, a lot of us start a gratitude routine and then it dies off in 4 days. Or it dies off in 2 weeks. And it's because we were writing a bulleted list. And it gets kind of boring, right? We're like, oh, our family, our health, our career, our car, whatever it is. And it's the same list over and over. So of course we're bored, and of course we're not going to continue with our gratitude practice. What I suggest doing is something that I call past, present, and future gratitude journaling. Past, present, and future. So what I mean by that is every morning I sit down and I think, past gratitude. What happened yesterday that I'm really grateful for? It also kind of serves as a journal because you're kind of keeping a record of what happened yesterday. Did I receive a compliment? Did I have a really sweet interaction with my son? Was I much kinder as a spouse? Did I have that difficult conversation that I've been putting off? Did a client of mine have an aha moment? Did I finally complete that project? What happened yesterday that I'm really grateful for? Then I think about present gratitude. What's happening in this moment? Also, what's that checklist of our gratitude items, right? Our health, our family, whatever it is. What am I grateful for in this present moment? And then I think about future gratitude. What's happening later today? What's happening tomorrow? What's happening next week that I'm really grateful for? Right? You all are in my gratitude journal. I was like, I cannot wait to present at the annual KREC conference. But what are we, and it allows us to really feel into our gratitude. And it really transforms our gratitude practice. So these are 4 different reframing tools that you all can use. Now, for all of my perfectionists in the crowd, you do not need to do all of them. Take the one or ones that resonate with you, and I encourage you to start practicing them. The last piece of mindset are mantras. Mantras are another word for affirmations. I just prefer the term mantras. Mantras are statements that help us feel grounded when we don't feel grounded. And as perfectionists and people who need to be in control a lot, it is very easy for us to feel ungrounded, especially when we want to control everything. And so these statements help us come back to center when we are in perfectionist thinking. They help us get outside of our heads, right? Be that curious thinker. These are 4. I've got a whole list of 12 that I can send you all. I'm happy to do that. I can share that with you, Catherine. But for these purposes, these are my top 4. The first one is I give myself room to be human. That typo that you had in the email that you sent the leadership team, let's move on. You're human. I give myself room to be human. The cool thing about this is that when we give ourselves room to be human, we give everyone else permission to be human too. Right? Think about it. If we are hard on ourselves for making a mistake, of course we're going to be hard on our team members for making mistakes. Of course we're going to be hard on our child when they make a mistake. Give yourself room to be human. The second one, done is better than perfect. You all, just get started. This one is a big sign in my office. And this was my mantra when I was writing my memoir, which, side note, was about my addiction to perfectionism and could have easily never been written as a recovering perfectionist. But I just remembered, right? Done is better than perfect. The done book is better than the never written perfect book. So done is better than perfect. Draft that email, schedule that meeting, have that conversation, draft that proposal. Just get started. Thirdly, I cannot miss out on what's meant for me. You all cannot miss out on what's meant for you. Opportunities in your life, a career opportunity, personal opportunities, what's meant for you will never miss you. What happens is, as perfectionists, we spend so much time looking in everyone else's lane. We spend no time in our own lane, and we're looking in everyone else's lane. Well, this person just got this career jump, and that person's kid just got on this club soccer team, and look at those people's perfect holiday pictures. We're always in everyone else's lane. And it distracts us from our own strengths and our own success. Each of us in this room has our own unique path, and literally no one can take away from our paths. No one. The thing is that we're slowing ourselves down with perfectionism. Right? Our doors of opportunity are there. There are no one else's doors of opportunity, but our perfectionism is slowing us down. Right? Catherine's doors of opportunity are not mine. My doors of opportunity are not hers. But we get in that thinking of scarcity and that there's not enough success. This will radically shift your thinking. You cannot miss out on what's meant for you. Right? Think about it. You're looking for a house, you make an offer, you didn't get it. It wasn't your house. And there's an even better house out there for you. That applies to everything in our lives. And then the final one, action leads to confidence, which leads to action. I referenced this one earlier, but confidence is so important, and perfectionism erodes our confidence because we have no internal self-confidence when we are perfectionists. Now, We have external confidence, right? We have those achievements and that annual review we got and that bonus we got and that approval from other people that we've achieved. But real confidence is internally. And it comes when we take action, right? Confidence is not built through thinking. Confidence is built through doing. So every time you're on the fence wanting to procrastinate, think, do I want to feel better about myself or worse? Take action. Action leads to confidence, which leads to action. So this is step 2, right? Step 1 was about getting aware. All of those perfectionism symptoms, the slow and fast perfectionists, getting out of our heads and into curiosity. And then once we know, we need to shift our mindset. We need to become the CEO and leader of our lives and our thoughts. And so you can do that through the 4 C's, you can do that through some of the reframing tools, or you can do that through mantras. So before we move on to the final step of action, I'd love to just hear which tools resonated with you. If we could have like 3 or 4 people share. Was it what if to even if? Yeah.
Yes, that one.
What if to even
I
if?
love that one.
Yep. It's a really powerful one.
Reframing.
Reframing tools. What else? Which one or ones resonated with you? Gratitude? Yeah. It'll radically shift our thinking. What else? Julian, since I know your name.
I was actually going to say gratitude as well.
That's great. Great. What else? Catherine, what about you? Mantras? Yeah. Yep. So whatever tools they are, you guys, again, awareness is nothing without action. Awareness is nothing without change. In fact, it can do more damage, right? Because as perfectionists, we're already hard on ourselves. And so then when we're aware of how we're hard on ourselves, it's that double impact. But today, you're being given an opportunity to change. Because again, 97% of people struggle with perfectionism. And I would say probably 97% of that 97% don't know it. But you all are in this room today and receiving this message for a reason. So it's an opportunity to do something different. And again, if for any other reason, it impacts everyone around us. So let's get into action. We're going to do some action steps, and then we'll also answer and leave some time for Q&A. So we need to get into action because we've got to do something different and put what we've learned into action, right? That action leads to confidence, which leads to action. So we've got to know our why, and then we've got to get into massive imperfect action, MIA. So knowing our why is so important because real sustainable change requires emotional connection, right? That's why we need to emotionally connect to why we need to change. And so I would like for you all, if you've got paper in front of you, just and a pen, if you all can get that out, I want you to write down, I'm going to give you a minute, what is your perfectionism currently costing you? I want you to write it down. What is your perfectionism costing you? Is it your time? Is it your relationships? Is it your sense of self-worth? Your achievements? Your confidence? What is your perfectionism currently costing you? We've got to really connect with how it's holding us back, or else we're going to step outside this room today and go back to the way we've been doing things. So what is it costing you? And then the second question is, what would be possible for you? What will be possible for you when you overcome your perfectionism? What's possible for you when you overcome your perfectionism? Will you deepen your relationships? Will you finally ask for that promotion? Will you develop a better, more present relationship with your children? Will you be kinder to yourselves? Will you finally practice self-care? So the first question is, what is your perfectionism costing you? And then the second one is, what would be possible? What's possible for you when you overcome your perfectionism? So now I would like for you all to kind of discuss what it's costing you and with your tables. So I'm going to give you all like 3 minutes and talk about what it's costing you at your tables. and also what would be possible for you. So what it's costing and what's possible. Okay, so I'd love to hear from some of the tables about some of the themes of what it's costing you, and also maybe what was possible for you. So let's start with this table. What's it costing you?
I said just being in the present, so like time management, because I don't ever feel like I'm in the present.
Yeah,
So
yeah, most definitely. What about this table? Just someone from this table. What's it costing you? There's no perfect answer. Seriously. Yes, people's answers, most definitely. So the first table answer just being, it's costing you being in the present moment. So this next table. Yeah, taking forward movement, taking forward action, so it's costing you that momentum. All right, what about this table?
I think it costs me peace of mind.
Yeah,
Constantly.
peace of mind. Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, we get emotional fatigue is real. All right, this front table.
We said time. So
Time.
Just like
Yeah,
you're mentally exhausted if you're thinking about all this stuff.
yeah, mentally exhausted, costing you time. Middle table.
So our team was stress.
Yes. Yes, lots of stress in your life, for sure. It's a back table. The ones that are afraid of failure. Sleep, yes. Important to health, costing you sleep, yes. All the anxiety and stress. What about this front table right here?
Peace.
Peace?
Just peace.
Yeah. Costing you peace, the peace of mind, calmness. How about the back table?
Very similar, peace of mind.
Yeah, peace of mind, for sure. This table?
Time.
Time. Yeah. It's really just holding us back. I mean, it's those minutes of even just self-destructive thoughts add up to hours, days, and in my situation, like 3 decades of my life. And then this final back table. Happiness, yeah, most definitely. So just really connecting to what your perfectionism is costing you. It really takes that emotional connection to commit to change. So now let's get into action. Now, this chart may look formal, but if we want to disrupt our pattern of perfectionism, we've really got to be intentional and thoughtful about getting into action and course correcting our perfectionism. So I'm going to talk you through this chart. I'm going to give you some examples, and then I'm going to give you an opportunity to create your own action plan. And I really would like for you all to write these down because it'll be helpful. It's something that you can do. It'll be an action plan for when you leave. So the first column is, I just want you to choose an area of perfectionism that resonated with you from earlier in this presentation. Whatever it was. Is it procrastination? Was it avoiding a difficult conversation? Was it destructive self-criticism? Then I want you to come up with a goal. And I'm going to give you some examples. I want you to come up with a goal. Then I want you to identify the resources that you may need to complete it. And then the roadblocks. A little hint, 99.9% of the roadblocks are ourselves. Our own fear, our fear of failure, our self-doubt, our excuses. But we just need to go ahead and put it out on the table. What are our roadblocks? Fourthly, timeline. I want to invite you all to not go past 2 weeks. Because when you go past 2 weeks, it doesn't happen. If you have an actual goal that requires more than 2 weeks, great. I want you to come up with a micro goal. So what is that first step for that bigger goal? And then the final step, which all of us perfectionists forget about, celebrating the achievement of this action plan. We forget. We're so high achievers that we're like, oh, I got that huge promotion, on to the next. Oh, I got that whole award, whatever, I'm going to answer this email. We never recognize our achievements. We're always being hard on ourselves. We have unrealistic expectations, right? Perfection is a moving target. So nothing is ever good enough. So we've got to recognize our win. This can be taking yourself out to get your favorite coffee, but it also does not need to be a financial commitment. It must be something where you acknowledge your win to someone else. So you've got to text a friend, tell a colleague, but you cannot keep it to yourself. So that's the caveat. So here are some examples. So slow and fast perfectionism. You're avoiding having a difficult conversation with a colleague. Your goal is to have that conversation by Wednesday of next week. The resources, you need to sit down and you need to really plan this conversation, right? Because as perfectionists, we either avoid a conversation or we bulldoze, right? And both of those erode relationships. So we want to come in the middle, and we just want to think about, do we need to look through past performance improvement plans? Do we need to look through emails? What result do we want to get from this conversation? How do we want to walk away feeling from this conversation? Sit down, take 10 minutes, plan it out. Roadblocks. We've been putting off this conversation for 2 months, so like, what's another month? All of our excuses, our fear. Timeline, again, is to have that conversation by Wednesday of next week. And then you're going to celebrate by texting your friend and saying you finally had that conversation, how proud of yourself you are. Another example, you have extreme self-criticism, right? Your goal is to practice the 4 C's for 2 weeks. The resources, you just need a piece of paper. You don't need a fancy journal. I know there's probably several of us in here that like have 5 journals that we've never written in because we don't want to mess up this journal or it's the perfect journal. You just need the back of an envelope. And then the roadblocks are, well, Vitale, I don't have 10 more minutes in my day. How am I going to come up with 10 minutes? I don't have time. So our excuses. And then the timeline is you're going to do it consecutively for 2 weeks. And then your celebration is, once you prove to yourself that you can commit and follow through for 2 weeks, you're going to finally buy yourself that journal and tell your friend. So those are some examples. I'm going to give you all 3 minutes, and I want you to write it down or in the note section of your phone. It's the only time you're allowed to use your phone. And I want you to come up with your own action plan. If you have a question, raise your hand, and I'm happy to walk around with my mask and help you, but take 3 minutes and complete an action plan for yourself. Okay, so I would love to have 2 or 3 people share their action plan. Again, it's really powerful writing it down, sharing, and then even more powerful to share it in the room. So who wants to be our brave first sharer? There's no perfect action plan. Okay.
Okay, procrastination on house things,
Okay.
remodeling stuff. That I just need to make it happen, and the fear is being judged or not perfect enough because my husband's a perfectionist also. So it's worse with both of us in the house, and if I do something, then he's critiquing it.
Yep.
So it's kind of like I just need to do it, and he needs to shut up. I'm like, we never fight.
Yeah.
When we're remodeling, that's when we do. And I did the 2 weeks limits, so there's a few things I wanted to get done.
What's the deadline?
2 weeks.
Okay.
Well, that's not the whole house, that's just.
Yeah.
And then, for the celebration would be watching Hallmark movies for 1 day, because I never watch Hallmark.
Love that.
And celebrate with my husband.
Awesome. Great. So the action plan for all of us that are virtual, it was procrastination, and procrastination specifically on home projects and just getting it done 2 weeks and celebrating with a day of Hallmark movies. Awesome. Okay, who else? I'd love to have 1 or 2 more people share their action plan. I'm just going to have to pick on you.
Mine was procrastination as well. I do have something that I could do this on, but my goal was to immediately complete a task that's not immediately due,
Yep.
and I can do that tomorrow.
Yep. So how are you going to celebrate, though? I'm not going to let you off the hook.
That is a question mark. I have no idea.
Okay, well, you at least need to tell someone. So it could be your friend at the table, but you need to text someone and just let them know. But it could be going to Starbucks or a local coffee place and buying your favorite coffee. And also, it could just be telling your friend, and that could be enough. But you've got to acknowledge getting out of your comfort zone to someone else. And so the action plan for everyone is a hybrid. It was procrastination, especially on work tasks, and the goal was to, as soon as you get a task, do it instead of putting it off. Let's have 1 more share before we close and open for Q&A. One more share.
I'll do one.
Okay.
I'm a mixture of slow and fast.
Yep.
My challenge is to be present. Always worried about the to-do list.
Yep.
So I think the goal is in line with what you
Yeah.
that I need to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. So the area was wanting to be more present instead of just being distracted and maybe always in our busyness and making that a priority. One thing that you could do, just a suggestion as a tool, is for 2 weeks you could do an inventory at the end of your day and just say, was I present, was I not? Where could I have done better? Because it's really important when we have some of those bigger things like being present or self-worth to really attach something tangible to it. And so if there's an area, doing an audit at the end of the day for that area is always a really good tool just to focus on it. So thank you for sharing. Okay, so we learned a lot about perfectionism today. And I want to leave you with one of my favorite ways of thinking and quotes. And it's that your dreams are yours for a reason. And that means you have the power to make them happen. All of your dreams and your goals, whatever they are, to expand your family, be the CFO of your organization, start a side hustle, whatever it is, every dream and goal that you have been given is yours for a reason. It's not happenstance. If you have been given the dream of writing a book, it's there for a reason. It's not by accident. Do not let perfectionism, you all, keep you from your dreams. Take the cap off your success and let go of your perfectionism. Anything is possible. The sky isn't the limit. It's just the beginning when you can let go of your perfectionism. So I was so honored to spend time with you all today. Continue the awareness. Start implementing those mindset tools and take that action plan with you and start taking action, right? Because action leads to confidence, which leads to action. And you are worthy and deserving of all of the goals and the dreams that you have, and all of it is possible. We've just got to let go of our perfectionism. So I want to thank you all for your time today, and if there's any questions, we can take those. But we may not have questions, because I know I've been a little afraid of speaking up. Were there any hybrid questions, Catherine? Okay. Well, and I'll stick around too. So if anyone wants to just stop by this table, I just want to thank you all for your time today and for being engaged and listening. And this is really deep work, so I'm proud of you for showing up for yourself. So thank you.
Thank you again. So quality improvement in the morning around healthcare organizations, and then quality improvement in the afternoon around ourselves. So pretty exciting stuff. We're going to take about a 15-minute break, and we'll start back up right at 2:05, I believe, or 2:10. So we'll take a couple-minute breaks, catch up on email, and all that good stuff. So thanks.